call to order the Committee of the Whole meeting, rather. I was about to jump into regular. Call to order the Committee of the Whole meeting of Council held August the 28th. There is an agenda in front of you. Would entertain a motion to approve the agenda. Councillor Adie, Councillor Forster. Any additions or deletions? All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. There is a single item on the agenda this evening, and that is petition delegation from Nicole Beauregard, Prince Rupert Gymnastics Society. Come on forward, introduce yourself, turn on the microphone there. And just while you're getting seated, I just want to remind people watching that the Committee of the Whole is not a decision-making meeting, but rather an opportunity for council to have discussion and have presentations made to council. I encourage Nicole for you to speak directly to the chair through what's going to take place here, and if members of council have questions for you afterwards, I'll redirect them to you. Go ahead.
Great. Thank you, Your Worship, and councillors and city staff for having me here this evening. My name is Nicole Beauregard. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm here and grateful to acknowledge the Coastal Tsimshian territory where I live, work, and play. So I am brand new to Prince Rupert. I've arrived here in April 1st, started work April 3rd. So I'm the brand new executive director with Prince Rupert Gymnastics, and I'm coming from the city of Kamloops. So I was working with municipal government for the last 13 years and in sport and physical literacy development. So that's a bit of my background, and really what attracted me to Prince Rupert was a few kind of key pieces of a formula. So it was a head coach that had national level 3 certification, an incredible working board, and the vision of a city council that supports nonprofits. And we are in a facility that City of Prince Rupert owns. So that was sort of a piece and a formula for me to make the decision to come here and work within the community and work for Prince Rupert Gymnastics. So that's just a little bit about me. Some of the things I looked after, I worked with our sport council. I was the liaison for 86 different local sport organizations, worked with city council, infrastructure development on recreation facilities. I was in charge of all the sport culture in terms of physical literacy and sport for the city of Kamloops. So I am very passionate about sport and physical literacy and so excited to be here. So just a little bit about me before we begin. So I'm just going to share a little bit about us. We are a not-for-profit organization, as you may know. We have approximately 240 participants that work with us. And really, it's again about inclusion. So in terms of physical activity, only 20% of children actually meet the physical literacy guidelines and physical activity guidelines in Canada. And so, of course, that's even more profound in the north in terms of physical activity. Children and youth, especially girls, 1 in 3 drop out of sport compared to 1 in 10 boys. So gymnastics is a sport primarily designated in traditional format to girls, women, or how participants identify. But we have had an opportunity to change some of that this past year with a new head male coach, which has been incredible for our programs. We've also been working in a pilot with the schools for May and June. Just with that pilot reaching out for them, since I arrived, we reached 178 students in a matter of 2 months. So that was pretty incredible. Really, it was just to test the partnerships around Prince Rupert and see what we have to offer. So that's a little bit about us, the partners, and I'm going to get into programs and initiatives. So again, we have 2 pathways in terms of sport, long-term development and sport and physical activity. So Sport for Life Canada, that's the framework we follow along with Gymnastics BC. So we have 2 framework pieces. We have physical literacy development, encouragement of participation, and then we have a high performance pathway. So we also have 30 competitive athletes that compete at BC Games as well as other provincial tournaments, which is pretty incredible. So we do offer all of those opportunities. We're down at George Hills Way, as you know, and there's a few photos. That's our competitive team there, and that's actually a circuit set up for participants just enjoying the first facility. So really what physical literacy is about, you've heard me say that term. So those who may not be familiar, physical literacy is about movement competence or fundamental movement skills, or as we age, functional movement skills. Then it moves into confidence, motivation, and participation. So it's basically it's a formula, it's a circular pattern. Without confidence, we're not motivated to move. Without motivation or competence, we don't have that competence. And if we're not confident, we're not confident. So again, it's not just about movement skills, it's building participants' confidence and motivation so they can pursue many activities as they age along the spectrum. So that can be things through to vocation, it can be leisure, it can be health, it can be rehabilitation, connecting with social justice, making friends, involvement in the community. It goes beyond just sport and movement. So that's a little bit about what physical literacy is and how we base our foundational program and philosophy at Prince Rupert Gymnastics. These are a few of our partners. So recently, since arriving in Prince Rupert, I come with a lot of experience and a lot of partnerships internationally and nationally. So I also consult for Sport for Life Canada. I'm what's called a Master Learning Facilitator. So that means I train facilitators across Canada to deliver workshops in community, as well as working with partners, our VIA Sport, which is our provincial sport body, and then Engage Sport North, which is a regional terms of North support. So that's just a little bit of what we've been able to do. And through these partnerships, we've been able to offer free community program all summer long at the park, Play Park Days, between 3 and 5 p.m. So again, with these partnerships, provincially, nationally, internationally, I've been able to secure so we can again move forward in the foundations of what physical literacy can offer in this community, being one of the only other not-for-profit indoor recreation facilities in this community. We also work with iSpark, which is Indigenous Sport Physical Activity Recreation Council BC. So we're working alongside with School Districts 52 and National Coaching Development Program. So those are just a few of our partners I've been able to bring along with me, and they are very keen to see what we can do here in the North. These are some of the programs and initiatives we like to do. Recreation, competitive, school, camps, again, community enhancement, diverse abilities. We've just recently put in a community enhancement grant for an all abilities movement program. So equity, diversity, inclusion, accessibility is so important to us, and we're really looking to get that component of what is involved with recreation off the ground. We really have a lot of community programming for all ages, right from 6 months to older adults. And one of the biggest things we like to promote is parent participation. So for programs up to around the age of 6, we welcome parents to come, because as we know, when mom participates in sport, their children are 22% more likely to participate in activity long-term throughout their lifespan. So having moms involved, working in terms of connecting with community and learning as we go, this is what we do. And that sort of sums up my brief little presentation. I just wanted to thank you and let you know we've got some amazing new programs happening this fall.
Excellent. I noticed on your summer programming you had stuff for people like me, and was very tempted, but my schedule wouldn't allow it. So there's still hope yet. Questions or comments from council? Councillor Forster.
Thank you. I'm just wondering if I could understand a little bit more about what the All Abilities and program is. What does that encompass? What does that include?
Ms. Beauregard.
Yes, your worship, through to Councillor Forster. So what that's going to look like is working with our population with diverse needs, Indigenous communities within the region. We want to offer an all abilities program. We don't currently have that here at our facility, and we have the design, we have staffing, coaches, the way to go forward. We have that experience. I recently won a BCRPA award for inclusion and accessibility design for the city of Kamloops in terms of making programming accessible. So that's one of the biggest things and the biggest gaps I've seen in this community since arriving in April. So for me, that's a huge passion, and that's about program design, logic models, coach training, facility support in terms of what does that look like bringing parents in the building, the parent education of the facility and the programming and the engagement and all of that. So that's a little bit about a bit of a teaser. So I sent in a full application around what an All Abilities program could look like. And then to address your worship's question around adult programming, we also have adult gymnastics. And then I'm hoping to also offer an enhanced mobility program as well. So when I worked with the city of Kamloops, I worked in an inclusive environment for participants over the age of 55. So that worked on functional movements and ADLs, or activities of daily living. So kind of all of those things are what we want to try to offer for all ages and stages along the development model.
Excellent. Councillor Forster.
Sorry, just in follow-up to that. So I'm just curious if that would include other community partners. I'm thinking the senior center, Acropolis, assisted living, some of our seniors that are at home that can't necessarily get later. Would that include a broader spectrum of programs for our people that are needing some enhanced mobility access?
Ms. Beauregard.
Your worship, through to Councillor Forster. Yes, that would. That's going to be part of it. So a lot of we've gotten a lot of requests from the high school population around special needs engagement. They have nowhere for their students to go during the day. We have a facility that's open during the day, so we want to partner and work with them. And then the piece around the mobilities program, absolutely. Having those community partners are huge, and that's sort of all encompassing. In the application, I focused mostly around the school-aged participants, but the All Abilities kind of program is something I've delivered before, and I've presented internationally at the International Physical Literacy Conference in May in New York. So that design is going to be brought here on what that promotion could look like.
Councillor Nish.
Welcome to Prince Rupert, and I've been a strong supporter of this group since it started, and it's good to see they're taking a step of hiring someone to kind of do these things on a daily basis, because obviously the group started out as a bunch of volunteer parents, and you only have so much time during the day to do these things, and it's good to see that they've evolved to hiring somebody to kind of take care of these and try and make a stronger group. So good luck.
Councillor Cunningham.
Through the mayor, thank you very much for your presentation. One thing I've noticed with your group is it's really reaching out to a lot of diversity in the community. So for that, I commend you. And on the senior center thing, I think I'll be giving you a phone call about that. Not that I'm a senior.
Or
But,
president of the seniors center.
With lower income groups, do you have programs for them and that? Because I know gymnastics could be fairly expensive.
Ms. Beauregard.
Yes, we do. So your worship, through to Councillor Cunningham, we do work with Kids Sport here, as well as Jumpstart, Canadian Jumpstart organization. So they support participants that need a little bit of help. So in terms of a fixed income, those organizations provide that opportunity to be enrolled in a seasonal piece. So once a week to get engagement. We also this summer offered free programming. So we offered physical literacy and gymnastics at the park. So again, no cost to that. Through our partnerships and that design, this fall we're offering a free try-it week, a $40 try-it week for participants to try unlimited gymnastics. And then if they choose to register, then they get that whole week free. So we're trying to provide opportunity for awareness and initial engagement in sport. So again, following with that long-term development in sport and physical literacy, awareness and engagement is the first step. So if people aren't aware of the programs, they can't get involved in the programs, they don't know where to start, they don't know the importance of physical activity. So that's really about what I'm trying to do this fall, is make a foundational component so all children can access physical literacy.
Councillor Cunningham.
Are you going to be participating in registration days at the Civic Center?
Your worship, through to Councillor Cunningham, yes, we are. Yep, so we will be there. I will be there from 6 to 7:30 p.m. What a great initiative. We are so excited. That's one less thing we have to organize, and I'm super excited to just meet everybody there and connect with everyone there, and then offer our registration. I might even bring a few little demo pieces to entice people along the way.
And on that note, I think this is our last council meeting before that, so it's been on Facebook and the paper about a registration dates and time for all the different activities in town and that at the Civic Center. So it's something that if anyone has kids that are interested in any sports whatsoever, it's a perfect time to walk around the room and get the kids involved.
Perfect. Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Adie.
I don't want to repeat what others have said, although they've said some of what I was going to say. I do remember my own experience of gymnastics, discovering that I had a particular skill for falling down. And I actually had a high school gym teacher tell me that on the report card. What I value about this is any kind of a new recreational institution that can attract a great deal of interest, as Councillor Nisha said, can plant its feet on the ground and develop a more permanent structure, which is what I see happening here. And it also, for Prince Rupert, has the great benefit of being indoors, which means it's a year-round thing as well. So I just want to add my commendation. It's a welcome addition.
Excellent. Any other comments or questions from council? Any final comments, Ms. Beauregard?
In terms of the All Abilities program, so I think it's really important to know that only 56% of participants without a mobility are disengaged from sport or activity, compared to 36% of able-bodied. So I think it's really important we need to address the gap. And in terms of health and lifestyle and community engagement and involvement, 56% are not even participating, not even stepping in the door, not even moving. So we want to change that at Prince Rupert Gymnastics, and we are here to help.
Excellent. Thank you very much for coming this evening.
Thank you, Your Worship.
All right. Unless there's anything else that council wants to bring up in the moment, I would entertain a motion to adjourn to a regular council meeting. Councillor Cunningham, Councillor Niche, all in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. The Committee of the Whole is adjourned, and the regular council meeting of August the 28th is now in order. Before we dive into things here, I want to acknowledge the passing of two gentlemen, both involved in elected public life. The first is Jack Rudolph, who sat in this very chamber for at least 2 terms that I'm aware of, perhaps more, and served through some challenging times in the city. And he passed away recently. And then I also want to acknowledge that Metlakatla lost James Nelson Sr. And again, a man who had served his community for quite some time on the Metlakatla Governing Council. So with that, I would open it up if any member of council wants to speak to that, or zero pressure. But if you had something you wanted to add to that, now would be the time to do it. Councillor Forster.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know family members of both of those leaders, and so I appreciate you passing on all of the condolences from everyone. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, then we'll move on. There is one late item, and it just arises from the closed council meeting that took place previously, and that will come onto the agenda as item number 6E, and that has to do with the artwork at the RCMP station and the contest that's been held for that purpose. So with that addition to the agenda, I would ask for a motion to approve the regular agenda. Councillors Adie and Randhawa. Any other additions? Hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. We now move on to public comments regarding agenda items. This is an opportunity for members of the public, if they'd like to come forward and address council and give comment to any of the items that council will be reviewing this evening. The stampede, nobody's running forward. With that, then I will move on. Thank you very much. And we are now moving on to the consent agenda. There are a number of items in here that I think council may want to draw some attention to, and so I would entertain a motion first of all to accept or approve the consent agenda. Councillors Randawa, Councillors Ady, and then invite your questions or comments around particular items. Councillor Ady.
Thanks. I'd like to ask about a couple of them. Not with a view to making any decisions on the spot, but I'm interested in hearing a little bit more about the 4th Avenue pathway. I noted the phrase assessments still being processed, even though it seemed that they had been done. So I'm not quite sure what that means, but I think that those community members that were interested in that subject would appreciate a bit of an update there anyway. So
Excellent.
I wonder if we could do that.
Dr. Buchan, Director Pucci. I'll just note for members of the public that may not have an agenda in front of them. This report indicates that approximately half of the $50,000 budget for assessments has been spent, and that's what Councillor Ady is inquiring about. Director Pucci.
Thank you, Mayor Pond, and through Mayor Pond to Councillor Ady. Basically, what I'm saying it's still in process is that the assessments have been completed on the ground. We have not received the reports yet. So we expect to receive the reports at the end of this week or early next week, and that will tell us what requirements need to be fulfilled in order to open it back up. If there's structural issues that need to be tended to, railings, stairs, decking. So we'll get that either at the end of this week or early next week, and then we can formulate whether we have it within the budget or if I'll come back to council and find out.
So
if we need to move
reasonable
forward.
likelihood there'd be a report back to council for the next council meeting?
Absolutely, we'll have something on the next council meeting with a
Councillor Ady.
And the other one that strikes the eye based on community interest and a fair bit of community debate is the McCarthy building. And I think the point to note there is unfortunate and, perhaps not unusual, but it's unfortunate to see the cost escalation that's taken place. And it does, in the report, suggest that at some point it'll be brought back to council before advancing. I guess my question or concern around that is, it's and I supported I think it's its essence, it's a good idea, it's a good initiative, but I wonder how comprehensive that question when it comes to us, brought to us before advancing, what are we actually going to be deciding about, given how far down the road this proposal already is.
Director Pucci.
Thank you, Mayor Pond. Through Mayor Pond. So what we'll be bringing back is a Class B estimate of the required renovations. So noting that there is likely a significant increase, we would like to bring that back to council to ensure that that they're behind moving forward with the renovation for the Public Works building. We anticipate that being by the end of the year. Thank you.
Councillor Cunningham. Sorry, it was at the end of, yeah. Councillor Cunningham.
Okay, on the McCarthy question, with the escalating costs of us moving in there and everything else and the renovations that have to be done to the building, are there going to be any indications this is going to impact the purchase price at the end of the day? And if so, have we actually negotiated a purchase price before all this escalation came into being? Here we are putting a lot of money in a building we're going to lease with the option to buy, and I'm wondering, with this money we're putting into the leased building, what effect it's going to have in the future on us purchasing this. Have we come to a set purchase price before all this?
Director Pucci.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Pond. Yes, we have come to a price. The price is basically at the day we took ownership or took lease. So we have it written into the agreement that any escalations or any renovations or upgrades we put in will not be taken into account with the purchase price. We need to trigger the purchase, and at that point we have to put 5% down, and then the remainder is at the end of the lease, and we can then purchase it outright. In my last report, I also noted that the owners of the building have given us a 25% break in the lease rate, understanding that we are going through this exercise. So they've agreed to reduce their lease rate with us because we're not actually in the building. Thank you.
Councillor Cunningham.
So out of that, it's a set price that we're going to be paying that's already been set up.
Director Pucci.
Yes, that is correct.
All right. Any other items you want to draw attention to? Councillor Forster.
I echo a lot of the questions and concerns that have been raised by my colleagues about the McCarthy building, so I won't rehash those. I did want to look at the correspondence ones, and just a question. There's several requests for us to do some actions.
Yes.
Do we need to pull them out to discuss that as part of the consent, or if we just agree, are we sort of just agreeing?
If you do not want
If we
any
don't want
action taken in line with that, then you would need to pull it out.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Councillor Cunningham.
I've asked numerous times before about the McKay Street on the activity reports, and it's on hold, but I've noticed all the renovations are being completed and I'm just wondering where we are with that.
The McKay Street Park, is that the one?
No, it's 712 and 714 McKay. It came up before us for an application.
I see. Under the variance permits?
Yeah.
All right. Director Miller, that's who you are.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have actually been in contact with legal on that particular property, and they will be resending us the forms for execution. So we should be having that removed from the next report.
Thank you.
I would also note that there are two other reports I think would be interesting to the public. One is the report from the Chief Financial Officer, which is basically a quick update on where we're at so far, spending and budget wise, and basically it's there's no flashing red lights, and that's a good thing on the dashboard. And then the other one is a report from the Director of Operations with regards to some Cow Bay parking options and opportunities. And again, I think members of the public would be interested in having a look at that. So with that, if there's nothing else, Councillor Cunningham.
It's the financial variance report.
Yes.
I noticed on our expenditures, some of them are quite low right now. Will that balance out at the end of the year? Or if not, with those extra funds, will they be rolled over, or what's going to happen?
Director Bombin.
Thank you. Through the mayor to Councillor Cunningham. We look at what's the percentage of variance left, right? So we're halfway through the year right now, so you would expect to see around 50% left on revenues and 50% left on expenditures. As far as capital items, those ones, typically the invoices start rolling in a little bit later after the service has been delivered, and then they prepare the invoice and we get it generally about a month after service has been rendered. So those things generally get caught up a little bit more in September, October, and if projects haven't been finished, then we request rollover. As far as the anything not being expended to the degree that it was budgeted, those items just go into surplus if there is any surplus, and vice versa. If we didn't get the revenues in that we expected and the expenses were higher, then that becomes a deficit in those particular departments. However, they all roll up into the general operations of the organization. unless they are in utilities, in which case they are in their own separate fund and the same mechanisms occur.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, all in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. We then move on to a report from planning with regards to temporary use permit number 2203, Metlakatla Road, 191 Metlakatla Road, with the recommendation that council proceed with the statutory notification process for the renewal of the temporary use permit number 2203 and include as a permit condition that the city retains a $5,000 cash bond until the temporary use is discontinued. And I look to you, Dr. Buchan, to introduce a relatively new staff member.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce and welcome our new urban planner working under Director Pope, Rudy Paraz. Rudy's here, and he was at the previous meeting, but I failed to introduce him then, so I'm catching up on my bad manners at this point.
Well, that's good, and I understand that your new hire has relocated from Mexico. Excellent. We're going far afield to get the best, the brightest and the best. I like that. All right, the recommendation is in front of you. Can I have a motion to that effect? Councillor Niche, Councillor Cunningham, any discussion? Councillor Cunningham. Is your microphone on?
Sorry.
Yep.
Who's going to be monitoring the disposal of hazardous waste before any ships are brought on shore? Is it MOE, Environment Canada, Transport Canada? Because I know it's not going to be the city. So this is something that is a concern with most shipbreaking operations, that there's a lot of pollution involved and things like that. And breaking up a ship can be somewhat complex. And I just wonder who's going to be monitoring that all the hazardous materials such as asbestos and everything else are removed before they're brought on shore.
Director Pope.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I believe it may be a combined jurisdiction. I can return in the next meeting to confirm that, but given that it is close to a waterway, it is likely DFO, as well as given the nature of the work, it's likely also the Ministry of Environment. So I believe it falls under both jurisdictions, but I can confirm that and for next meeting. If you'd like.
Have they been involved in the temporary use permit?
Director Pope.
Upon initial application for the temporary use permit, those permits were all in place. If they proceed with any shipwrecking, they will have to be in place.
Councillor Cunningham. Okay, good. Any other questions? All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. Thank you very much. We have a report from planning with regards to development variance permit number 2317 that council proceed with the statutory notification process for development permit 2317 for 321 Overlook Street. Can I have a motion to that effect? Councillor Cunningham, Councillor Forster. Any discussion, comments, or questions? All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. Report from the Chief Financial Officer with regards to permissive property tax exemption with a recommendation that council approves the permissive property tax exemption policy 180-02 as presented. Can I have a motion to that effect? Councillor Adey, Councillor Skelton Morvan. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. We have a report from the Manager of Communications, Engagement and Social Development with regards to replacement of the city flag. Recommendation that council review and select a preferred design from in-house flag design options presented in the attachment. The attachment is there, but the living, breathing examples of them, 4 of them, are sitting behind us. Council, I'm before we even get going here, I'm going to ask if you just by way of kind of a quick round robin, if you have a particular favorite. I'm going to start over at Councillor Adey. You don't have to go into why. I'll give you a chance if it looks dicey. Which one of these 4 flags would you choose? And we'll number them starting from the far wall 1, 2, 3, and 4.
I would have preferred if you went the other direction, but that's okay. I'm up for it. I do want to say, just, I understand the need to replace the old flag. It's based on the needs that presented themselves to us when we had to do the rebranding exercise. And I remember fondly the community discourse that resulted from that process. And I wonder whether this is going to kind of echo in similar ways. But here we are, and we're being asked a specific question. So I find myself inclined to think that a flag that says who we are on it is preferable rather than simply an image. And I understand that from some of the documentation that may go against some designers' philosophies. So given that, I like it to say Prince Rupert, but in terms of design, I really like the one on the far side, which is the one with the mountains and the ocean. So I'm wondering if we could have Prince Rupert on that one. That would be my pitch. I'm sorry to complicate your world, but you asked me first.
So that would be 1A. You're going with 1A. All right. Okay. Councillor Rondeau.
Yeah, I like number 3.
The same as Councillor 80?
No, number 3.
Number 3?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Okay, thank you.
The rainbow.
Man of much fewer words. I like that. Councillor Forster.
So my suggestion was actually going to be the exact same as Councillor.
So you're going for 1A.
I like 1A. I like the mountains, and I like if we have to do this, that's what I would pick. But I want Prince Rupert in there.
Okay. Councillor Niche.
Well, I was leaning towards 1 myself, but one comment that was mentioned to me earlier was white could be mildew in this town, so the flag might not look so good white. So maybe 1 with a color change, possibly, of the sky, so that it's not white. And I'm not opposed to adding the city of Prince Rupert on that.
Wow, I don't even know how to qualify that.
So
I'll call it 1B.
1 is that's 1 ABC.
Got it. All right. Councillor Skelton Morven.
So are we basing this off of the attachment or just kind of way of, I'm going to go with, I guess, option A on our selection here, the black with the red. Yeah, number 4, I guess. Yeah, or option B on the attachments.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
No,
so it's a little
jumbled.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with that one there.
Number 4. All right.
Excuse me, Mr.
Councillor
Mayor.
Cunningham.
Mr. Mayor, just as a point of clarity, the options that are hanging on the wall are not an exact replication of what's in the attachment. They're merely to provide a ever so slight representation of what they should look like. The attachment is far more accurate.
This is working. Thank you. Councillor Cunningham.
I like the old one.
You would.
Like out of all of them, it would probably be 4. But I don't see anything wrong with the old one. And my other question, while we're at it, is how much is this going to cost?
There you go. All right. Dr. Buchan.
Your Worship, I'm pleased to say that the design fees for the developing the options was staff costs. So there was no money spent in that, with the exception of paying for these flag demonstrations. Going forward, the cost of purchasing the flags would be what we'd pay for new flags, replacement flags, so there's no additional cost for that either. And this is simply enacting council's new brand.
Councillor Cunningham.
How many old flags do we have in stock?
We have one with a number of stains on it, and that's it.
There you go. All right. So what we've got is 3 different versions of one. We've got one for 3 and 2 for 4. And I was going to go for number 2, so I'm all by myself. Councillor Rondawa is all by himself, so we're out of the running. So, Dr. Buchan, what is the opportunity you believe to add either? So there's been 2 suggestions with 3 councillors leaning towards the first one. There's a suggestion to add Prince Rupert to it, which I think we shouldn't do, but that's a whole nother kettle of fish. And then the other is, what's the option of getting away from white to black? I haven't really looked at it, but or a dark color, a non-white color.
Your Worship, I don't think that's a tweak, changing the color of the sky to option 1A through C. That could really fundamentally change, the looks of that one. So I think that's a different option.
Okay.
Adding wording, I think is fine. I'm wondering if you might want to do an exercise where there's 2 that have the most votes.
Yep.
If everybody voted again to see whether or not that
4 and 1.
Four and 1 with some tweaks to number 1.
Okay.
That might
all right.
illuminate.
So thank you very much. So the middle 2 have been eliminated. Councillor Cunningham, who doesn't want to change the flag, if you had your choice between a variant or the one on the far end or the one on this end, which would you choose? This one, number 4, right? Councillor, you're number 4.
Yeah, I'll go with number 4, and I'll even add my rationale for that.
Okay, yeah.
Once we go beyond 3 colors, especially in branding, it starts to become just a disaster of calligraphy and just all of these other things. So when I look at the first one on the back here, even changing the background to a darker color, it just ends up being a bit of a blend of a multitude of things. But I also see the pieces around some of the indigenous calligraphy and coloring that was taken into account when we hired Russell Mather as an artist to bring in. So with those particular palettes being the white, the red, and the black. So just to add some context, but I mean, for me, I'd be open to the second one in the center here if it added our municipal fonts as well with the wording. So I guess I'd lean option A for me for my vote. I guess the counting vote would be for the number 4, but modifications to number 2 if that's where people are wanting to add more color to it. I think there's a little bit less risk than there would be with adding all of the rainbow color palettes as well as mountains, and then now a background color would be a disaster. It just would look really unprofessional. But that's my personal and professional opinion as somebody who is in graphic design and web development. So
there you go. Councillor Cunningham.
Why don't we just add mountains to the bottom of number 4 and leave it at that?
Oh gosh. Okay, no, I'm not going there. Councillor Niche.
Maybe we need to take a second look at this and come up with a couple more ideas. Just a thought. I mean, is this a decision that needs to be made tonight?
But if you were going to choose one of the 4.
Well, I mean, I still lean towards the first one.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Forrester.
Still lean towards the first one. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Rondawa. Sorry, the first one? Yep. All right. Councillor Adey.
I think I spoke up in favor of the first one the first time. I've not been given a reason to change my mind. So.
All right. Well, not that it makes any difference, but I'm going for 4. That means there's 3 for 4. There's 4 for 1. Okay. So now, council. You know what? It didn't take us this long to do the $30-some-odd million budget, but that's okay. I anticipated this actually. So we're over to 1. can we send this away to staff? Is there any desire, or can we just go with one as it is? What would you have us do? Councillor 80.
I don't feel like we've made a decision that can all get behind. I think we need to put a little more time into it. Whether that's some way of narrowing it down or having a look at modifications that might have been suggested, I think we should do that.
Dr. Bucket.
Your worship, given how close the vote is, and given that you haven't seen the visual expression of the number one that you want to see, perhaps we can bring the two back to the next council meeting.
Perfect. Councillor Cunningham.
Number one, as it sits, what's it mean? If you don't know that's Prince Rupert's flag and it's in Vancouver or someplace else, they're going, oh, it's nothing. It's got to have the name on it.
Well,
to me, it's just
Sheldon Cooper would tell you that you don't. That it becomes your brand. It's like the Nike swoosh. It doesn't have to say Nike. Anyway, yeah, there you go. Director Bauman.
Not to get things stir up the pot a little bit, but if you go back to the one that's the white one, and then you just make it black with white lettering instead, it still incorporates the rainbow. You're missing the mountains, but you still have the name of the city as well. With black in the back, then you're not getting any of the mildew as
I'm sorry. So you're suggesting
Turn that one black.
turn that one black
and make the lettering white,
and the lettering white.
and then at least you've kind of got
That
the
seems to have
rainbow,
resonated
and you've
with
got
a
the
few.
name.
Can staff take that away?
We'll bring back the three options.
Thank you. Okay. No, that's great. Listen, it has to be done. Councillor Naish.
Does the Canadian flag say Canada?
All right. The next item is. Why am I?
Mr. Mayor, it's the resolution from closed.
I'm sorry?
The resolution from closed would be the next item.
That's, yeah, no, I'm just sorry. I was just looking at another item here for some reason. All right. Item number 6E is the art piece for the RCMP building, Director Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It was moved by Councillor Skelton Morvan and seconded by Councillor Cunningham that Council select Nicholas John, Chris Fraser, and Kristen McKay as the first, second, and third prize winners, respectively, for the Municipal Police Detachment Call for Artists.
Excellent. And that was based on unanimous recommendation from the committee that had been appointed by council had been appointed to review those submissions. All right. With that, council, any comments or questions from Councillor 80?
I feel, having demonstrated my grasp of aesthetics beyond dispute, I'm on much more firm ground. Just to offer a shout out to the Prince Rupert Garden Club.
Yes.
Yesterday morning I spent a very pleasant half an hour at the Sunken Gardens, and it is in full bloom, and they deserve all the credit in the world for having made it so.
Yeah. Well said. Any other comments or questions? I noticed that we had some senior ladies at the seniors games that brought home a whole lot of bling in the swimming events. Looks like Rupert is sort of topping the class there. I won't. I'm fearful I'll leave somebody out, so I'm not going to name anyone. But well done. Any other comments, questions? I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Councillors Cunningham, Councillor Skelton, Morvan, all in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. Meeting adjourned.